Hey, welcome back to your Friday edition of Around the Blockchain here on BitBoy Crypto, the absolute largest and coolest crypto community in all of the interwebs. My name is Justin. You can call me J Chains. We have got a great show planned for you. All right, let's see. Who do we got on deck? We have got your favorite tech journalist, film, TV producer, and host of some of the largest blockchain conferences around the world, the brilliant and always wonderful Naomi Brockwell.
Hello.
Next, we have up one of my crypto buddies, Chris Rice of RiceTVx. He's an entrepreneur, content creator, journalist, crypto advocate, and all-around freedom lover. Good to see you, man. Rounding up our non-studio guest this week is another of my in-real-life crypto friends, none other than CryptoStache. Hey, little-known fact, Stache, Ben, and I once planned to start a men's grooming product line, but the world put the hold on that, maybe in the bear market. All right, last and certainly not least, is one of the reasons why we're still here. Oh, man, we are sure glad the channel is back up after a robot overlord messed up once again today. Ben Armstrong, oh, BitBoy Crypto. Hey, Ben, I'm not really sure how many times you've won this show, but I would expect today is not one of them.
Oh, you son of a snitch.
All right, BitSquad. Hey, do me a favor, please. If you haven't already, head down to the show description and follow the links to our guests and make sure to give them some BitSquad love. Give them a follow and then start smashing that like button here on the video. This way more people can find out what we're doing here at BitBoy Crypto and Hit Network. All right, as I said earlier, welcome back to Around the Blockchain. This show is all about your favorite crypto personalities and friends duking it out for the title to give us a 30-second parting thought and crown king or queen for the rest of the day. Now, if you're watching live and you're also in the chat, when you hear something you like from one of our guests, make sure to hit a +1 in there, and you'll see those little zeros right now. You'll see that number start to go up. All right.
We're being rated?
Oh, yeah. Oh,
Yes.
there's a scoring process, Naomi.
Clearly
Don't
you've never
you?
seen the show
Told
before.
me this. I would have brought my aim game. I just brought my, like B+, maybe. Shit.
I think you're going to do just fine. I think you're going to do great. All right.
You're going down, Rockwell. I'm taking you out this Friday. This is
God
This is
damn
my
it,
Friday.
Stache.
It's over.
Stache. All right. Well, today we're going to discuss some huge volatility hitting the Bitcoin markets this weekend. That's right. It's options expiry time. I can't believe it's the last Friday of the month already. That's insane. Also, it's Ethereum's 6th birthday. Happy birthday, ETH. And finally, the CBDC adoption in the U.S. is lagging behind. Is the United States going to catch up? What's going to happen here? Before we jump in to this episode, let's check Market Watch. All right. So we are looking at the global crypto market cap is 1.6 trillion. That's a almost 3% increase from yesterday. Bitcoin over 40K. Am I right? Here we go, baby. ETH almost at 25, and it's not even Ether. What else we got? VeChain. Wow, up 27% on the week. Big week for VeChain. And Bitcoin Cash is still not Bitcoin.
What?
All right. What? All right. So here we go. Let's get into this today's show. Let's talk first about how the Bitcoin monthly options are set to expire. Now, these option contracts, they're worth $1.5 billion, and they do expire today. They're all on Deribit. It's the world's largest crypto options exchange by volume and open interest. Now, prices, they frequently become very volatile after the expiry. So, let's see. Rice, let me start with you on this one. Should retail investors stay away on this last weekend of the month because of the volatility? Or if you're looking at the other side of the spectrum, is this the best time of the month for traders and charters?
I mean, in my opinion, it's always a good time to dollar cost average anything you're buying, especially Bitcoin. So, I mean, you cannot go wrong with that strategy. I do want to say real quickly, BitBoy, thanks again for having you back on Around the Blockchain, and glad to have you here and with us as far as your channel. It's a lot of censorship going on, so we all need to kind of stand up for free speech. And I just wanted to throw that out there.
Thank you.
A lot of people know that I'm not like a big fan of the traditional system, the legacy system, and I'm not a big fan of options and derivative trading. This is a lot of what we have going, like the problems that we have in our economic climate today. In 2008, it was the housing market and the derivatives that caused us a lot of issues. And out of that, we had the birth of Bitcoin and decentralized cryptocurrencies and cryptocurrencies as a whole. So what's interesting, though, about this particular issue is where the price was standing when people were buying in on the options at the beginning of the month and where they're at now, because depending on where they would have been standing, they would have actually been better off purchasing Bitcoin rather than wasting their own money on these options. And I think that people need to take those kind of things in consideration, especially those who trade. Because if you look at trading versus the dollar cost average strategy, most of the time you're going to be doing a lot more. You're going to be doing better reducing that volatility using that DCA strategy.
Awesome. I would have to agree with what you just said there. Hey, Stache, what do you think?
I mean, you know, let's just call options trading exactly what it is. It's gambling. You guys are you're just gambling. That's what it comes down to. You know, I got into options maybe like a year or two ago. My buddy was like, "Oh, you got to check out options. You know, stock options." I'm like, okay, let me get it. And I got totally wrecked. And I realized like there is so much, you know, of that gambling feel in options in general, that it wasn't something that I actually enjoyed, you know, and it was a deviation from my normal strategy of like, you know, like what Rice is saying, you know, buying Bitcoin at a regular schedule and keeping it consistent is one of the best ways to accumulate wealth over time. But some people are greedy as hell. We know this, you greedy mofos. That's what you guys, that's what it comes down to. And so that's what we see a lot of people trying to catch, you know, that next, you know, great swing so they can, you know, get Bitcoin on the cheap or, you know, sell Bitcoin for a better price. And, you know, with these options expiry, a lot of people want to speculate what's going to happen. Here's what happened based upon last month, or here's what the trend has been. And every time I feel like Bitcoin, you know, decides like, screw you guys. We're going up now. And so we saw this, you know, with the options expiring today, is that Bitcoin is just continuing to go up. It's not really, there wasn't much of a blip in the road. It was a small blip, but continuing with the uptrend. And this is something that me and BitBoy were both in agreement on last Friday, which, you know, happens. It happens. We both called that. We both called that. Yeah, we both called that bottom. I was like, you know, last week was that bottom. Like it's going up from there. And the weekend was going up too. We both agreed, and it did. And it's continuing to do the same thing. I think it's going to continue to break expectations that people have had, because Bitcoin loves to do this. It loves to make all these traders that are drawing little lines on charts look like fools. And you know, that's one of my favorite things to see, because I'm not a big charter. I mean, you know, support and resistance, some basic stuff, but you know, I'm glad to see Bitcoin kind of breaking some of those option traders' souls. You know, these people who are trying to gamble and make a little bit of cheddar on you know, the price action that's going up and down like this. And you know, like Rice was saying, it's one of those things where, you know, these things can lead in a long term. They can lead to being detrimental. That's why Bitcoin was born, because of stuff like this. You know, not necessarily options, but you know, gambling.
There you go. If there's one thing I can count on, and that's on Stache calling a bottom. Naomi, let me.
I don't know about that.
Okay, Naomi, what do you think?
Just before we switch, I mean, like, Stache, isn't everything in life a gamble? Isn't that what we're here for? Like, we have no information. We have no concrete information, at least. And so, you know, we try and make decisions as best we can. And people are looking at market signals, trying to figure out where it's going. I mean, I personally don't play that game at all. I'm in it for the long term, and I'm in it because I think that Bitcoin is going to give us financial freedom, financial sovereignty. That's what decentralization does. It takes away that focal point that governments can shut down. I mean, Bitcoin wasn't the first money that was alternative. We've had all kinds of private monies all throughout history. There's a book on my shelf right there, Good Money by George Selgin, absolutely wonderful monetary historian who goes into the history of all the private monies that have existed. And it's wonderful until the government came and taxed them out of existence and shut them down, you know, and threw the people in charge in jail. You know, these days you have digital versions, like David Shom had a version before Bitcoin. You know, they can unplug servers, they can throw CEOs in jail. When you have a decentralized system, it becomes uncensorable. Like, that's why I'm here. I'm not really here for the day-to-day movement, because at the end of the day, I'm all in on crypto, and I want this because I want back my financial freedom. I want control over how I spend my money, and I don't want to have ask permission from middlemen when I want to access my own funds.
When in doubt, zoom out.
Boom.
I like that. Ben, what do you think? What would you say to anybody that that follows your channel, being a retail investor? Would you tell people to kind of chill it out at the end of the month, especially when we're seeing that maybe the options might not hit it?
Well, it just depends on how degenerate you want to go. Because, I mean, the truth is, I mean, for trading, you want volatility in the most volatile moves. I mean, let's look at what Bitcoin has done in the last hour. I mean, I believe, if I'm correct, I think they expire at 4:30 Central. I think they expire in what, 20 minutes, and you see what's happening leading up to this. I think that's correct. Maybe it's a little earlier than that, but you see what's going on here at the end of the day. A lot of times we see the price dumping, but now the price action is favorable. We're seeing the price go up. I mean, we've gone like we were. I like to show this real quick if I could. It's my show, so I know I can.
Permission granted.
Thank you, Jackson. Your
Trump card pulled.
So I mean, just looking at the chart here, look at this, guys. I mean, we talked about, we had set a record for this bull run for most consecutive days in a row in one, consistent price movement. So we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and we squeaked out a green day yesterday. Earlier on the show, before we got removed, we were looking at this candle was deep in the red. And now look at it. We're over $41,000. We are now $200 away. Well, no, it actually, look at that. It went all the way up to 41,008 a few moments ago. This is huge. This is officially now the highest we've been since the crash. If you go to the last highest candle, the high was 41,338. We have now set a higher high. It went all the way up to $41,880, almost 42. I can definitely see over this weekend, I can see us getting over the 42,000 number. I definitely think that is something that we might see. So there is a lot of volatility. So it just depends on what you want to do. If you're like Naomi or Stache and you don't really want to trade the day-to-day movements, which I'm not trading the day-to-day movements right now, either myself, but sometimes I do, then this could be a good weekend to do that. But if you're a person who is, let me tell you who I feel sorry for. I feel sorry for all of the retail investors out there that got suckered out of selling their Bitcoin. Or suckered into it. Yeah, they got suckered into selling their Bitcoin, selling their Ethereum. We were told at $30,000. We were told it was going to 20K. We were told it was going to 9K. There were people out there preaching that message, and look what happened. Now those people got squeezed out, and now Bitcoin is so much higher. They've lost their opportunity for an entry. So those are the people that I feel really sorry for right now.
Paper hands, man. Those paper hands. You guys got to have diamond hands of diamond.
Well, Ben, you've been saying that for weeks now. Don't sell, don't sell, don't sell. And we saw a lot of people selling, and like I said, it's too bad for them. Their buying power has gone way down, which is unfortunate because we know what's about to happen. We know that the next couple months are going to be great. All right, so Bitcoin option contracts, these things allow traders the option of buying Bitcoin at a set price. And the contracts can be traded throughout the month, typically until the last Friday. Today, this is what we're talking about, the expiry. Let's see, Rice. Option markets bring in the big money. Is this a boost overall to the price, or do they have an opposite effect, you think?
I think it really just depends on where the manipulators are trying to take the price, where the coordinated manipulation is actually taking place, where they're focusing their efforts at. But obviously, we know that in the long term, Bitcoin is going to be going up. And I don't believe that this bull run is over. And I believe that we're getting back into what might be the last leg of the bull run. So, when it comes to the traditional investment from like your Wall Street, your Finance 1.0, your legacy systems, I really just honestly don't think that they have any sort of purpose involved in cryptocurrency. Like I mentioned earlier, I just think ultimately this is going to be a detriment to the markets as a whole when you have this type of manipulation going on. When you're looking at like the precious metals, gold and silver market, gold and silver is not even priced based off the actual commodity. It's priced off the paper contracts that are trading. So if we get something like that happening more in cryptocurrency, where the legacy systems are able to take over more, your digital currency groups being able to come in and infiltrate, then this is just going to become a problem more and more for crypto and allow for it to be easily manipulated, unfortunately.
I unfortunately agree with you. And this is, that was going to be one of my questions, but you basically answered the question I was going to ask. Do you think this is just yet another form of manipulation within the crypto space? Let's see.
100%. If you look at what happened with the Trump administration, they said in December of 2017 when we hit our all-time highs is when they allowed for Bitcoin futures to be offered up in January. And they did that purposefully so they could bring the price of Bitcoin down. So that's just another example of how governments and Wall Street and big money push down and manipulate prices.
Absolutely. Stache, you think this is just another manipulation tactic for big money?
I mean, for big money, when you talk, are you talking about, you know, hedge funds, or are you talking about institutions? Is that the kind of big money you're talking about? Because I don't necessarily know that we're seeing a lot of hedge funds or large money players, like institutions, using options for that, you know, to that degree. Now, I may be wrong, but I think that it comes down to is you see a lot of like individuals. I think you see a lot of individuals that are in the options market, and the same thing when it comes to like stocks too. So, you know, you talk about, well, is this something that you can use to manipulate the price? Well, yeah, I think it does definitely have an effect there. I don't know, as we're seeing right now, I don't know that it really does have a huge effect on the price itself. You know, as we saw today, Bitcoin price just kept on going no matter that these futures expired, and you know, did the exact opposite. So whereas people may try and use some of these things as another metric to speculate on the price short term, I think that it loves to backfire and blow up in their face. And I love to see that, because I think that is hilarious. And I'm not the one who advocates using options or doing leverage trading at all. I think that is exactly how you get wrecked. And those are, you know, I feel like, I truly feel like those are forms of like gambling. Now, Naomi was talking about, isn't everything a gamble in life? Well, I mean, sure, to certain degrees. But when you talk about a degree, like a high level degree of gambling, and where that scale is, those things are at the top of that scale, you know, of life, right? So that's kind of how I feel about it.
Yeah, I want to jump in and just respond to what you were saying before, Rice, about last legs of the bull run. I mean, I've been in this space for a really long time. Like, I started making videos about crypto 20, right? And you see ups and downs and ups and downs. This time feels completely different. And why is it? It's because we've seen a 40% increase in the money supply in the last 14 months. We're printing money in an unprecedented way. And so cryptocurrency, in particular Bitcoin, is being seen as a hedge against economic stability, as a hedge against inflation. You have MicroStrategy talking at length about this. So you have Tesla getting in for the same reason. A lot of institutional players are now saying, well, we recognize that Bitcoin is kind of like digital gold. And so they're going all in. And so when we talk about the last legs, I mean, unless the government is going to put out a statement saying that they're going to start to tamper quantitative easing, I don't see this slowing down, because people are looking for a place to put their assets. Like, we just had new inflation numbers come out yesterday. Again, they surpassed all the predictions that they were expecting. So CPI is going through the roof. Everything is getting more expensive, and people are scared. And now Rothbard talked about the 3 different stages of inflation, right? The first stage is where prices hike at the outset, and everyone's like, okay, well, this is transitory. And that's what Jerome Powell is saying. Oh, it's transient. It's going to pass. It's, you know, it's only temporary, and prices will go back down. And so this is the stage where everyone holds off buying. You know, if you're going to buy a house, well, just hold off, because, you know, the houses from housing market will come back down. Or you want to buy, you know, anything else, just wait a little while, it'll come back down. And then the second stage is where you're like, oh shit, it wasn't temporary, the price is going up. So then they start buying all of the things they want to buy, and you see this huge spike in prices, right? Because everyone starts going in. And then the third stage is where everyone goes, okay, I need to buy as much as of anything that I possibly can to get my money out of cash, because this thing is going crazy. Now, it's not unprecedented that this might happen in the US. Like, sure, we look at Venezuela, we say, well, this is crazy what's going on there. Argentina, oh, this is crazy. This will never happen here. In the 70s, we had double-digit inflation in the United States. So it's not out of the... So honestly, my money is on Bitcoin. My money is on cryptocurrency. I'm also, you know, looking into precious metals as well. Any sort of assets. I think that diversification is key. You have Brian Brooks saying, you know, Bitcoin is another asset class that people should be diversifying into. And I think with spokespeople like that, you know, the former head regulator of the US banking sector, you know, if he's saying that Bitcoin is an area of diversification that you're missing out on if you're not in it, I think as people start to get this message, I do see that this isn't the last legs of the bull run at all. I think that, you know, when we look at the price going up, get really excited. I'm not as optimistic as you guys. I look at the price going up and I get really sad, because I just see that the price, you know, value of the US dollar is going down. Sort of my perspective, but I'm just grateful that we now have things like Bitcoin where we can park our money.
Absolutely. I know some people hate these words, but I love being cash poor and crypto rich. It's
Yeah.
I think
we're all cash poor, aren't we? I mean, raise your hand if you're not cash poor. I mean, seriously, we're all cash. I mean, I'm sitting over here and I try and keep as little amount of fiat in my bank account, just enough to be able to pay the things I need to pay the employees I need to pay for in my business, things like that. And if I do need to cash it, I will, but I try not to. I try to just have just enough fiat to cover the bills and the things I need to pay for, and keep as much of Bitcoin. As much as I know I can use Bitcoin to pay for things, I want to keep that because, like I said, it is a long-term hedge against what's going on with the inflation numbers here in the United States and the US dollar. And right now we're seeing things propped up a lot, but I think over the next 5 years, we're going to see the decline of the US dollar globally, not just in the United States, as a world reserve currency. It's already happening. But we're trying to, the people, the powers that be, the man, as it say, the man is trying to make sure that we don't see that. But that's what we're here for. We're here to try and pull that wool off of your guys' eyes so you can go out and do some little more research on these things and understand and know for yourself.
Absolutely.
Pull the wool. Pull the wool. All right.
Yes.
We're going to do this.
Ben, if there's anything you want to add to that, I know that you didn't really get a whole lot on that, or we can move on to Ethereum birthday.
Oh, yeah. I just want to say they're totally wrong. That's all. Naomi and Stache can't be more wrong on this topic. A couple months ago, I would have agreed with you 100%. But I now no longer believe that. I now actually believe we're heading towards deflation instead of inflation. It's the only way they can actually fix the currency. I think USDC, I think a digital dollar is going to play into that at some point over the next year. You're going to immediately increase the demand for the rest of the world using dollars if you give them an easier form to use. I think that's the master plan. I think that's why we're seeing USDC push left and right by Digital Currency Group.
No.
And well, let me tell you what though. Here's where you should all be real concerned. Here's where you should all be real concerned. We are now hearing the government say inflation is a problem. Whenever the government is telling you something, you need to run for the hills and do the opposite.
Do the exact opposite.
I actually said 2 months ago.
Came out now and is saying that it's getting out of hand.
Exactly. And when you have Jerome Powell,
the Fed can prop this up for quite some time. And if they add a digital element to it, it's going to help them to so much more. But they're going to be able to prop this up, and it's a big smoke and mirrors game, and everybody's getting smoke blown way up their wazoo, just straight up, and they're watching it happen right before their eyes.
I've been talking about audience for 2 months now, though, that a huge narrative going forward for the rest of the summer and the fall is going to be inflation. We are going to hear inflation. We're going to hear inflation. We're going to hear inflation. We're seeing it across the board. We're seeing Jerome Powell talking about it. We're seeing the CPI numbers come absolutely out of control. The government is really pushing this inflation. But what are the banks doing? They're cutting credit lines. They're trying to hold on to cash. And I really believe that by the fall, something is going to change. I don't know what's going to be the catalyst for it, but I've been told this is coming. We're going to be heading into a period of deflation instead of inflation, even though it defies logic 100%.
Well, if you look at the velocity of money since 2008, right, and wondering why it's been slowly going down, because it just completely tanked at the start of 2020 when people stopped spending money. And when that velocity picks up, we're fucked, right? All of that money goes back into the economy and we're all screwed, right? But the reason it was going down over that period is because the banks have mandates. I mean, the government prints all of this money to finance their whims and their deep pockets and give all of their cronies, whatever bailouts they want. And we saw huge corporate bailouts in 2020, right? 2008, where we saw like major corporate bailouts as well. Velocity of money has been going down because the government prints this money and then tells banks you're not allowed to loan it out, right? And so it seems that at the moment the banks still have that mandate of keep that money under control, otherwise this is going to spiral out of control. Now, deflation, by definition, it means they have to cut down the money supply, right? And they're not going to do that because how are they going to finance anything? They've just put out this gazillion-dollar budget where they're promising everyone a free pony, right?
They drop the bond yield rates. That's how they do it. If you look consistently throughout time, that's what they do. As the Treasury comes out, and they drop the bond yield rates. They can only control
short-term yield rates. Market determines long-term yield rates, and so it's they really don't have control over this economy. And I just don't see how the government is going to stop printing money when they have all of this this giant wish list of things they want to have.
Honest with you, I don't know either, but I think it's going to happen.
No, though. Well, let me tell you, the plan
we're
right
at the
now.
end of a cycle, though. We're at the end of this fiat cycle, and it's coming to a head one way or another. And that's why you're hearing all this talk from the World Economic Forum and all this great reset talk, is because it has come to the end of the cycle. Watch Mike Maloney's Hidden Secrets of Money and compare it to Rome. We are at the end of the fiat cycle.
I mean, I would agree with you there, but right, I think the big thing here is that how are we going to get out of debt if we don't print ourselves out of debt? That is the real major problem that's looming here with the United States. We talk about that's the reason why we're not. And that's the problem. So, but if you could just continue to inflate the U.S. dollar by printing money over and over and over again, using a lot of the situations that we've seen ourselves in over the last couple of years as an excuse to do so, which it makes it a perfect storm. So you keep printing yourselves into the point where the U.S. dollar is so worthless that we finally printed like the $10 trillion or what, I don't know, the debt has been crazy, but like however many $1 trillion we're in debt at this point, so we can actually finally pay back that loan. Because we're getting to a point where we've already been to a point where we're insolvent as a country. We're the largest country, like financial type of country when it comes to those things, and we're essentially insolvent as a country. We have so much debt racked up, and we'll never, ever, ever be able to pay it back. There needs to be some way for us to be able to wiggle our way out of that situation, and printing a ton of money is going to be the way that they're looking. Now, short term, they may talk about inflation, and try and to take it down, but it'll be another reason for them to print more money and print us out of the debt that we're in right now.
I just think
there's no incentive at all for the government to fix the money. There's huge incentive for the government to promise their cronies more bailouts and print as much as it takes in order to get those bailouts out.
Exactly.
So we're just going to see this keep inflating to wazoo. And I mean, it's a scary situation, I think, honestly.
It is. Yeah, I agree.
I think. Look, I mean, when you look at China, they're doing a lot of the same stuff. I mean, China is also a giant bubble of debt, but these countries just keep figuring ways out of these Ponzi's. They keep finding a way to extend it. And I think what you guys are really underrating is the importance of the dollar in the world economy. And I understand China has taken over a lot of the trade, but people don't want the digital yuan to be the reserve currency either. I think that we're going to go straight from the US dollar being the reserve currency to the U.S. digital dollar being the reserve currency. The rest of the world can't really afford for the dollar to fail. So I don't know what the answer is. I don't know how they're going to do it. I can't speak to that at this point. I think over the next 3 to 4 months, I know dropping the bond yields is definitely going to be something that they're pushing, that they will be doing. That's for sure. You can look for that over the fall. But outside of that, I don't really know how they can continue the Ponzi, but they're going to continue it. The only way to give the dollar more value right now is to push it through deflation. So, and the government's pull strings on that.
Well, I think that's a perfect time for us to segue. We were going to get into Ethereum's birthday next, but that conversation was great. And Ben, how you hit on the CBDCs, let's talk about that next. So currently 81 countries in the world are at some stage of development with a CBDC, which is up from 35 just a year ago. The largest chunk, 32 of those, is in the research phase, and 14 have launched pilots. 16 are in active development. 5 countries, which are Antigua and Barbuda, St. Lucia, St. Kitts, Grenada, and the Bahamas, they've already launched digital currencies. China, as we know, is not far behind. Is the first to market the most important factor in regards to CBDCs? Stache, why don't you lead us off on that one?
I don't think that first to market is a large factor, in particular when it comes to who is the first to market, right? So if you look at some of the countries you just named that Rice brought up there, some of my favorite Caribbean destinations, which I love the fact that they've taken this step. Some small countries have taken a step towards a central bank digital currency. But I think that it's really who is the major world power that's going to be the first one to launch it. And at this point, it's going to be China. I mean, I don't think anybody here could disagree with that. It is going to be China. The United States is very, very far behind. And let's also remember the fact that, whereas, yes, right now, the U.S. dollar is the reserve currency, most of the major players, major countries out there don't necessarily like the United States and not very happy that that is the case. So I think that, with the fact that we're so far behind in the development of this, even if we fast track it, we're going to screw it up is what it comes down to. Maybe we'll be able to use some of these larger countries like China and some other ones that are working on it as a little bit of a case study to be able to try and avoid some of those pitfalls, which I think that's what they'll probably end up doing. But I still think the fact that it's gonna take so much longer for them to get something on board and to really get the whole infrastructure in place for all the idiots here in the United States that don't know how to use digital anything. So you think about, oh, having a digital currency is great, but I mean, not idiots, but people who are just not tech savvy is what we'll say, really. Ignorance, not necessarily idiots. I shouldn't have said that. But what it comes down to is, yeah, people who just can't use technology, they still need to be able to use, a system that works for them. And so I think that, a lot of those factors are going to play into the fact that the United States is going to take a long time, and they're going to be, dead last in this race, in my opinion.
So I want to hear what everybody says about this question, because I think it's really great. And Stache, you hit on it. The United States is falling behind. Why do you think the U.S. is falling behind, especially when we got things like Wall Street and all these big tech firms? Or by saying that, did I just answer my own question?
We got because of Warren and her and the fact that she still thinks that all these digital currencies are controlled by shadowy coders. Like, I mean, we're just
shadowy coders. Shadowy
right. I mean, we're just not on board.
Like, I'd rather that than shadowy bankers.
I'm for the shadowy coders. Like, that's what everything that we
shadowy
use right now is built on. Our entire financial system right now outside of Bitcoin is built by these same shadowy coders that she says control the network. So, I mean, I think it's just kind of a joke. And so I think that really plays into it. You're seeing these horrible, takes from all these representatives. People are representing us, and they don't know jack shit about what's going on or what should be going on, and they're the ones in charge. So that's the reason why we're having an issue here, and we're going to continue to have an issue. It's just there's just a lot of people out there they don't get it, they don't understand, and they're not being educated. Right? At least Ben is out there in Texas throwing it down here, I know, a couple months ago. But for the most part, they're not getting in the right people from the industry to really give them the big picture on why this needs to be happening. And if they are, maybe they're actually maybe they are and they know, and this is some sort of part of that play that Bitcoin they want to try and incorporate when they launch this CBDC, and they have some sort of deflationary plan. Who knows? But I think that it definitely has to do a lot with the representatives in our country and their lack of knowledge.
Absolutely. I think I want to get a t-shirt that says shadowy coders is better than shady bankers.
Yeah.
Shadowy politicians.
I'll take a shadowy coder.
Shadowy politicians. That may be even better. All right, Rice. I'll bring this one to you. It's the same question that Stache just answered. Why is the U.S. lagging behind? Does it have anything you think to do with Wall Street and the banking financial system, or our politicians?
Well, I mean, I'm not even 100% sure that the U.S. really is lagging behind. I mean, we don't really know what's being done in the background. I mean, we had Brian Brooks, who is the chief legal officer from Coinbase, working with the Treasury as the comptroller of our currency. And he was very pro-crypto. He was talking about the private sector versus the actual government working with these technologies, which is a potential possibility when you look at the stable coins. Jerome Powell just came out recently and was talking about a September report they're going to be rolling out that's going to be breaking down the risks and benefits of not only the CBDCs, but digital payments as a whole, and stable coins. And so basically what's happening around the world has accelerated this decision-making process, and they want to make sure that they're moving forward with appropriate regulations. So I think that once I don't think that the U.S. is lagging behind. I just don't think the U.S. has announced what they're doing. If you think about all the things that we've done, I don't know, honestly. And then when you think about the politicians, we do have lobbying groups like Coin Center and such that are out there trying to educate politicians. And then you have some politicians that are educated, they're trying to educate other politicians. Not that I'm a pro-politician person, because I think that we can replace politicians now with smart contracts.
Are you a lobbyist? Are you a lobbyist for politicians, Rice? Is that what is going on here? You're trying to smoke a mirror.
Talking about replacing politicians with smart contracts. That's my lobbying effort.
I would love that actually too. Yep.
Because that's the whole point of the politicians, are to represent our votes. But I mean, the world is going digital. And governments are going to want to push for digital currencies and CBDCs because they want to have complete control, tracking and tracing, and you have no privacy. And that's just where we're headed. Unless people do something to take a stand, that is where we are going. Everything is going digital. That's why you're seeing the like things like VR and AR start to come back around and be a big thing, because that's going to be a big part of life when we start moving forward, because everything is going digital. We're even talking about putting computer chips in our brain.
Dang. No, thank you. No, thank you.
Yeah, I don't think.
Well, I mean, that's what Elon Musk is talking about with this Neuralink thing.
With the
I mean,
Neuralink,
they're already forward
you
thinking
can't trust the
about
muskrat.
going into a digital age. I don't trust it at all, but I'm just saying the powers that be are pushing us in that digital age, and that's where we are headed.
All right, so something that Rice, you were talking about Jerome Powell, and he clarified that 2 white papers are actually coming out this fall. One is going to break down the different policy options with their costs and benefits. The other, developed by MIT, is going to provide a lot more technical guidelines. And there's also a senior IMF official who had said it's important not to see the race for a CBDC as simply a face-off between China and the U.S., but rather a global race to market. Ben, who do you think needs CBDCs more, the government or the people?
The government, obviously. 100%.
Government, obvious. I'm gonna let Naomi talk.
Government.
She's been trying to raise her finger.
Go ahead,
I
Naomi.
want to know what Naomi has to say.
Yeah, all right. So I'm going to push back because y'all are talking about this like it's a race, like we want the US to get a central bank digital currency. I tell you now, this is an Orwellian nightmare that further accelerates towards this, global surveillance state that we're, fearing, right? You look at like the digital yuan has been rolled out in China. They're already experimenting with it in the subway systems there. Have you heard the rhetoric with which they're talking about this new programmable money and why it's so good in China? They're saying that, if you keep your money in the bank account for too long, then we can just delete it, and that will encourage more spending in the economy. They're saying that, we can automatically deduct fees. If we think that, your social credit score is bad, we can deduct money from your account. This programmable money is not a good thing. We do not want the United States to be in on this. Now, the EU has had parliamentary hearings about how they want to proceed with this. They've done polls of citizens and say, what do you look for most in a digital currency, in a central bank digital currency? And they said, overwhelmingly, we're looking for privacy. Now, what are the chances of any world government prioritizing privacy when it comes to creating a central bank digital currency? Like, they are phasing out cash. We already have cash bans all over the world. We have like a 1,000 euro limit in Italy for cash transactions. Same in France. In Australia, it's like 7,000 US dollars approximately. And so they are phasing this out. We are moving towards a world where we will not be able to have any sort of privacy in our day-to-day lives in terms of how we spend our money. And that is not a good scenario because that completely degrades freedom in society. If you don't have the power and the freedom to spend money or to have any private space in your life, that's a really scary situation. So yeah, I'm not a fan of central bank digital currencies. I'm not excited about them. I do not want them. And I think what's that saying? Just be grateful you don't get all the government that you pay for, right? So I'm glad that they're dragging their heels on this and are not going forward.
I'm not a fan of them either. I'm definitely not a fan of them either.
So there's things that we need to do to stand up against it.
Right, and that's what I'm saying. I'm not a fan of them either. I don't think that it's something that's good for us in general, for the people in general. But it's going to happen. It's not something we can avoid. I wish there was some way where we could say, oh, if only we got everyone together and just all the people, we got everyone together. And they said, no, it's
Stache, we can.
There's no choice.
That's it. That's why we have alternative monies. If we move our money out of this surveilled system, these alternatives of what save us.
And that's exactly why I love Bitcoin. And that's why I preach it every day. But the fact of the matter is that the governments are still going to force this upon us, and the people who can't scale with that force, they're gonna have no choice because they don't know anything. They haven't gone to Bitcoin, they haven't bought in, they don't understand it, they don't trust the tech, they trust the government. There's lots of those people out there. And they'll have no choice but to switch over to this digital currency and get everything that comes with it. And so when I was talking about, the U.S. being behind, just in the fact of like, okay, well, how will that affect us, in contrast to the rest of the powers globally? Well, there will be some sort of power, trade-off in that kind of respect. Now, the people, no matter what happens, we're getting screwed. That is not in contention at all. And so, that is even a greater reason why we're here doing this and why it's important for people to understand that you should be continuing to build up your reserve of Bitcoin and other really good top cryptocurrencies to hedge against these horrible governments and their horrible decisions, even though it's not something we can necessarily even stop at this point.
And build alternatives for us to use. So we can do something with these cryptocurrencies.
We got them.
That's right. Like Shiba.
The Shiba.
That was a joke.
Everyone's going to go buy Shiba now, Ben. What have you done?
No, don't do it.
We needed some comedy.
Yeah. Don't do it.
I think I would just like to say on this topic that I'm much more concerned. I'll be honest with you. I'm not concerned about CBDCs right now. I'm not concerned about the digital yuan. I think this thing's going to flop. I don't think it's going to even, they're going to force it, but I still don't, the reports back from the test were awful. Everybody hated using it. So I'm much more concerned with 5-6 years down the road. Maybe, yeah.
BitBoy, you're saying that the Chinese government is going to look to what the people of China, their user experience, and say, well, let's adjust our policies according to what they like.
No, of course not. No, of course not. But what I mean by that is, at some point, the people have to buy in and use it. And if they have alternatives, and they do through WeChat right now, and we pay and stuff like that, then eventually, China can strike that stuff down. I mean, they own all of it anyways, but it's going to be a struggle. It's not going to be just like all of a sudden overnight, everybody's going to start using it. I mean, they're still doing the testing right now. They had to do a lottery system to hand out free money to people in the country to actually get them to use it. So this is not coming in the next 3 months. Okay. This is not coming very quickly. I'm much more concerned 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years down the road when we have a one world digital CBDC. That's what I'm much more worried about. I'm much more worried about that's coming. So all this stuff, the digital yuan, the digital dollar, digital anything that is a CBDC, these are short-term fixes to get us, they're rungs on the ladder to get us to the one world government not one world government, but the one world monetary system that the banking cartel has been pushing since the 80s.
That's why we need Bitcoin, because that is literally it's the light in the dark, right? You have them trying to consolidate everything into greater power and to a greater monetary system that they have full control over, and then you have the decentralized version, which is Bitcoin and everything else in the ecosystem that says, "Screw you, man. We want to do this our way," and it's something that it was designed and developed by lots and lots of people contributing their ideas and their power and computing knowledge
something we didn't mention
somewhat fair.
Something we didn't mention I think is really important is Miami's launching their Miami coin. So you might start seeing local cities start launching their own coins, which would actually give more of that monetary power back to the local community. And it'd be a way for us to get away from using things like the US dollar. And it's not necessarily Bitcoin, but it could be a cryptocurrency. So, I mean, there is that possibility that these local coins, these city coins, could give us an option to be able to opt out of using the dollar and things to that effect.
Well, that's basically how the US dollar came into an existence, right? I think each state or like counties
there were regional coins, bank coins, things to that effect.
There was, I think
we're going to kind of go back to that in a way before we see us like having a complete digital system, like where we're having one world control of currencies and governments.
I put it in the hands of the local people, the money for the people. I think that's the way to do it. For the people.
For the people's channel.
All right. So let's get on to our last topic for today. This is all about happy birthday Ethereum, not Vitalik Buterin. He is the cyborg from the future. All right, so ETH launched July 30th, 2015, and it's the second largest cryptocurrency or crypto asset, as we know. The 6th anniversary will likely be Ethereum 1.0's last, as it's set to be replaced by Ethereum 2.0. Really quick, Naomi, for 5 points, because you've got the nicest voice in the panel here, would you like to sing happy birthday to Ethereum?
I get 5 points?
I'll give you 5 points.
Nicest voice in the panel. What?
Yes!
Stache, mine's the second.
To you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Ethereum. Happy birthday to you. All right.
Oh my gosh, you killed it. Give her 10.
Give her 10.
Give me 10.
That was incredible.
See,
DJ,
I can only be Stache by cheating. I realized that right from the outset. So, go easy on me.
That's okay.
We realized it too. That's why we cheated.
It's good.
Oh, that was great. Rice, let me start with you on this one.
They don't like to let me win. It's all good.
We're gonna do when I was reading this article, I didn't know that Ethereum was launched as Frontier. That's something I thought was really interesting. So I did learn something today. But actually, what I would rather say is happy birthday, Ethereum Classic, because that's really what this is. This is Ethereum Classic's birthday.
That's a good point.
Poor Ethereum Classic.
When a lot of people got to be reminded about some of the things that happened in the history of cryptocurrencies. And when the DAO theft, the DAO hack took place, the Ethereum was created to do a rollback to get rid of what took place, which really kind of goes against everything you think about with immutability. So in that context, Ethereum is not immutable. because they have been able to roll back and change their blockchain.
It was easier to do it.
It's just
then,
one of
though,
those
you know,
things
like,
that people need to
now
be
it's way
reminded
harder.
of in the history of crypto.
Yeah, it's way harder to do it now than it would be back then. Back then, it was a lot easier to be able to do because the network was so young. It wasn't as much money.
Right.
You know, there was not as much at stake. But now it'd be way harder to do, man.
Oh, it's
No,
the
I
best.
agree,
It's
I
the
agree. And
bestest
I'm-
girl. It's
And as
Ada.
far as the deflationary
hello.
EIP
You're
1559, oh, the dog is still on the
I have
show.
no speakers.
I love
Get
her.
out! Get out of my face!
That's beautiful.
She heard Ethereum in
Sorry.
birthday, and she was like, "What?"
So that's little Ada.
That's
just
Ada.
so you know.
Little Ada.
Ada?
All right. So let's get to a question really quick. Let's see, Rice. Do you think
Is that
EIP
Cardano
1559?
or Lovelace?
What was that?
Cardano or Lovelace? I'm just wondering where the Ada comes from.
Cardano.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we made a big
Because
Cardano
he's Charles
purchase.
Hoskins. You guys didn't know this is Charles?
So it's a
Well,
BitBoy
it-
Cardano
it's
staking
technically-
project.
Oh,
Stache.
I didn't recognize you,
Oh,
Charles.
yeah,
Ada
Stache, you
Lovelace.
bring up a good point. So we were at the airport in was it in Miami, right? Waiting for our luggage, and some random girl walks up
I
to
love
Ben
this
and goes,
story.
"Aren't
I
you
love this
Charles?"
story.
We're like, "Huh? Charles Hoskinson." So Ben took a
He was
picture
so
with a
convinced, it
fan,
was great.
thinking that he was Charles Hoskinson. One of the best
when
videos.
I realized it would
Picture?
crush her to find out that I wasn't Charles, I just played the part.
Yeah, even though
Oh
we were
my
telling
God,
her that
you're
it wasn't, we
terrible.
were literally saying that's not him, and she was just so adamant that it was him, and we are just like, all right, fine, like it's him. You got us.
Yeah, she was
We
a
are-
nice
you
girl.
got it.
Her and her
We-
father do Cardano staking, so thank you.
So we got pretty far off there.
Thank you for supporting my project.
There's a point for you. All right. So Rice, do you think that EIP 1559 is going to decouple Bitcoin from Ethereum?
I don't think right away it will. No. I mean, but it is kind of good. Anytime you're doing a deflationary event, it's always going to be good for the coin and for the community. Now, it's obviously not good for the miners, and the miners are definitely fighting back against this. So I'm really interested to see how that situation is going to play out between the miners and the developers as far as way of moving forward. But I think it's great they're doing a deflationary event, getting rid of bringing down the transaction fees and burning off part of the supply of the coin. So ultimately, it cannot hurt what they're trying to do. But I don't think we're going to be a sea of flipping this year.
Anyone else think we're going to flip this cycle
I do.
or next cycle? You think it's this cycle?
I do.
Not this cycle,
well,
no.
Not a permanent flipping, but you have to remember the way that these bull runs work. You have to remember the altcoin run at the end. So you're not looking at Bitcoin being at its peak and Ethereum being at its peak at the same time. You're looking at Bitcoin going up, then having a large decrease, and then Ethereum running up. And I think in that transition, I think we could see, if not a flipping, a very close to a flipping, but it will not be permanent. It will become permanent in 4 years.
All right. Naomi, what do you think?
Oh, goodness. I mean, regarding Ethereum 2.0, we've been waiting for this for years and years and years, like since the start of Ethereum. And they keep saying, well, the roadmap, maybe just a year, guys. And it keeps getting
It's
pushed back.
coming,
So, I
dangle
mean,
the
sure,
carrot.
you keep saying, like, this is the last birthday. I don't know. I mean, I'm hopeful. I really hope they get it done because there's Ethereum really did give birth to this incredible flourishing, this amazing ecosystem that is DeFi that really does take down the barriers of entry to all these financial instruments that ordinary people couldn't get access to before. Like we have all these accredited investor laws that basically preclude anyone who doesn't have money already from getting access to certain investment products. It's like the worst law. And then DeFi comes along and it's like, let's get rid of all of that and anyone can participate. Then the government freaks out. It's like, oh no, people making their own decisions. This is terrible. So, it's like, I love what Ethereum is about. I'm hopeful they can figure out their gas issues because right now there are so many platforms on Ethereum that just don't work because it's way too expensive. It's just cost prohibitive to use a lot of this stuff. So I'm hopeful, but I'm not sure about the time frame. If it does, I mean, it may be too late. You're already seeing chains like even Binance Smart Chain. You're seeing Solana. You're seeing Tezos. You're seeing all of these alternatives spring up that are starting starting to create and harbor these DeFi platforms, it may take too long for Ethereum to actually get their scaling, underway, and these other platforms may take a lot of the market share in the process. I actually don't know which one's going to happen. I don't have a strong opinion. Ethereum could pull it off. They could launch and then they could collect back a lot of that market share because they really do have that network effect already, being the first mover in the space in this world. So it's up in the air what's going to happen.
Well, you know what is going to happen? You are going to win today's show. I think we.
Yes, thank God you asked me to
great
sing.
She knew that when she sang
I
happy
was
birthday.
stressed. I was stressed.
Congratulations, Naomi.
Yes, congratulations,
I'm
Naomi.
sorry I cheated you guys out of a win. You guys should have had the opportunity to sing.
You know what? If they would have gone on more long-winded answers with some great quality, they would have gotten more points. But all it took was for you to sing happy birthday to Eve. So, all right. So with that being said, Naomi, we're going to leave you with 30 seconds. PJ, if you could put a timer up there because I don't trust that she'll actually go 30 seconds.
What happens now?
Oh, you get to leave us with a parting thought, whatever you want to say. You get 30 seconds.
Anything?
Anything.
Oh, good. You should have told me about, I don't know what to say. Like, thank my mom, my dad. No, has it started?
Thank the Academy. Yeah.
All right. No. So my 30 seconds. Free Russ. Go to the freeruss.org website, sign the petition. It's an amazing course. A man who really did create this Bitcoin movement as we know it. He proved that Bitcoin could have utility. He was an incredible entrepreneur. Don't give in to the smear campaigns about him. Just go there and sign the petition for clemency for his sentence, a draconian sentence that was rolled out that were 2 life sentences plus 42 years. It's absolutely a disaster. And this man needs to be out of jail. So they're my parting words for you all. I love you all.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. So that should do it. That should do it for this episode of Around the Blockchain. Thank you so much for joining us. Don't forget to smash the like button. Follow all of these guests. Love their content. Smash their like buttons. This is it for Friday Around the Blockchain. We'll see you on Monday. Have a great weekend.